2026, and 2027 really look like they are going to be very strong years for remake fans in the gaming world. Because ahead of us, there are not just small graphics updates, but real returns from major franchises. Huge names like Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, Zelda, Tomb Raider, Persona, Final Fantasy, and Resident Evil are getting ready to appear either as full remakes or as the next chapter of an ongoing remake project. In this video, we will look at the most important remake games, when each game is coming, which platforms they will launch on, what they will change, what they will keep the same, and of course, which ones I am personally waiting for. First, let's start with one of the most exciting games on the list for me. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is coming on the 9th of July 2026 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC. Ubisoft is preparing this, not like a simple remaster, but like a remake of Black Flag, rebuilt from the ground up with modern technology. So we are not just expecting a resolution boost or cleaner textures, we are expecting a Black Flag with next-gen lighting, more modern animations, improved naval battles, a smoother stealth system, and a more current gameplay feel added to Edward Kenway's adventure. What excites me the most here is that the game will still protect the spirit of the original Black Flag, because Black Flag was already one of the most special games in the Assassin's Creed series. Edward Kenway, the pirate atmosphere, sailing the seas with the jackdaw, ship battles, shanties, that free feeling of the Caribbean. These are still the things that players remember. On the remake side, it looks like we will see a more modern combat system, more flexible stealth mechanics, new features on the ship side, and some extra content. If Ubisoft does not go too far and ruin the soul of the game, this could truly be a very strong comeback. Let me be honest, I will play this game as soon as it comes out, because I am a big Assassin's Creed fan, especially a fan of the older Assassin's Creed games. I never warmed up to the newer games as much as the old ones. For me, when I think of Assassin's Creed, I still think of character-focused stories, stealth, the assassin feeling, and that old atmosphere. Black Flag was a very special game that combined that feeling with piracy. So this remake is not just nostalgia for me. It could be the game that finally makes me truly excited about Assassin's Creed again after a long time. Next up is Halo, Campaign Evolved. This game is coming on the 28th of July 2026 for Xbox Series X, PC, Steam, PlayStation 5, and Game Pass. They are bringing back the campaign part of Halo, Combat Evolved, as a modern remake. This is important because Halo was one of Xbox's biggest symbols for years. Now, with this campaign remake, it will reach not only old Halo fans, but also PlayStation players who never really had a proper chance to get into the series before. There are additions like new visuals, updated controls, co-op support, new weapons, new vehicles, and 3 new missions. My connection with Halo is not very strong, so I cannot talk like someone who has been playing Halo since childhood, finished every game, and knows the lore by heart. I have not played many Halo games, but this remake could be interesting exactly for players like me, because sometimes a remake opens the door to a series you could not get into before. Halo, Campaign Evolved gives me that feeling a little bit. I will definitely check it out when it comes out, because experiencing the first big story of such a massive series in a modern way could be nice. Maybe it will be nostalgia for old fans, and a good starting point for more distant players like me. Now let's come to one of the biggest names in gaming history, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. This game is coming in 2026 for Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo has not given too many details about the game yet, but just the name Ocarina of Time returning to the spotlight is already a huge event on its own. Because this is not just any Zelda game. According to many players, it is one of the most important games in gaming history. It is a game that made history with its dungeon design, its time travel idea, the legend of Link in Hyrule, and for laying the foundation for 3D adventure games. I am not a hardcore Zelda fan from the old era, but I played the last 2 major Zelda games and really loved them. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom showed me very clearly why Zelda is such a special series, so the Ocarina of Time remake is especially exciting for me. Because after loving the modern Zelda games, going back to one of the most legendary roots of the series in a next-gen way will be very interesting. I will definitely play this game when it comes out, and it will probably be one of the games I sink long hours into. The next game is Rayman Legends Retold. This game is coming on the 1st of October 2026 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Ubisoft is preparing this as a retold, reimagined version of Rayman Legends. There are details like new visuals, a new story presentation, new music levels, couch co-op support, new challenge content, and Rayman Origins. Enhanced Edition being included in the package as well. So this is not just a let Rayman Legends look a little better kind of project. Ubisoft wants to present this game as a broader nostalgia package. Rayman is a very special series for me. When people think of Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, or Splinter Cell may come to mind. But among my favorite platform games, Rayman games have always had a separate place. Because Rayman games have such a sweet cartoon energy. Colorful worlds, absurd characters, fast platforming, musical levels, and a feeling of fun that connects directly to childhood. That is why Rayman Legends Retold is not just a new platform game for me, but like the return of a beautiful memory from childhood. I am definitely waiting to play this one too. Now we have come to one of the most important games on the list for me. Tomb Raider: Legacy of Atlantis is coming on the 12th of February 2027 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Steam, and Nintendo Switch 2. It is being developed by Crystal Dynamics and Flying Wild Hog with Unreal Engine 5. This game will rebuild Lara Croft's first adventure with modern game design. In other words, it will take the old Tomb Raider spirit and bring it back to us with larger environments, more advanced puzzles, a more modern combat system, and next-gen visuals. For me, Tomb Raider is a very special series. In fact, among the games on this list, after Assassin's Creed Black Flag, this may definitely be the game I am waiting for the most. Lara Croft is a character I have followed since childhood. With her posters, figures, movies, series, games, and almost every kind of content you can think of, she holds a very separate place for me. Tomb Raider is not just an adventure game. For me, it is one of the most iconic brands in the gaming world. That is why returning to Lara's roots with modern AAA quality is truly a huge excitement for me. What excites me the most about this remake is that the old levels will not just be copied. The puzzles will be redesigned, the environments will become more connected, the sense of exploration will be expanded, and classic moments will be rebuilt in a modern way. But balance is very important here. If Tomb Raider turns too much into an action game, it could lose its old spirit. If it stays too tied to the past, it may feel heavy for modern players. My expectation is for the classic Lara Croft adventure to merge with modern cinematic storytelling and a strong exploration system. If they do this right, it could become one of the most special remakes of 2027. Persona 4 Revival is coming on the 18th of February 2027 for Xbox Series X, Windows, Game Pass, PlayStation 5, and Steam. Atlus is preparing this game as a modern remake of Persona 4. The visuals, interface, combat system, and event scenes will be updated. After Persona 3 Reload, we can see that Atlus is following a serious strategy of bringing older Persona games back to modern audiences. That is why Persona 4 Revival looks like it will be one of the important games of 2027, especially for JRPG fans. I am not someone who is very close to the Persona series, so I do not have an extremely emotional connection like the hardcore Persona fans waiting for this game. But I can understand how big the fan base is and why Persona 4 is loved. The Inaba atmosphere, the Midnight Channel mystery, character bonds, school life, and the murder investigation are details that make this game special. It may not be the most personal game on this list for me, but I hope it really turns out well and makes its fans happy. Maybe thanks to this remake, I will also get into the Persona side more seriously. Final Fantasy VII Revelation is not a standalone remake in the classic sense, but the final game of the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. It is expected to come in spring 2027 for PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 2, Xbox Series X, and PC. This game will carry the story of Cloud, Sephiroth, and the team to its big final point. Major subjects like the High Wind, a larger world scale, the story moving toward the final battle, and the fate of the planet will be at the center of the game. So this is not just a new chapter. It will be the closing of the remake journey that began in 2020. I did not play the original Final Fantasy VII, but I played the first two games released in this modern remake trilogy, and I loved both of them. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth were not just good RPGs for me. They were massive games that truly pulled me in with their characters, music, combat system, and cinematic storytelling. That is why I am also waiting for Revelation with huge excitement. It is definitely going to take long hours for me when it comes out. Because I am really curious how this story will end on the Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, Barrett, and Sephiroth side. The biggest question here is this: how faithful will Square Enix stay to the original Final Fantasy VII in the finale, and how much will it continue its own new remake path? Because from the beginning, this trilogy did not move forward like a one-to-one remake. Fate, changing events, the future of the characters, and new interpretations of the original story were always part of it. Revelation has a very difficult job. It needs to satisfy old fans while also giving a powerful finale to new players who loved the remake trilogy. If it succeeds, it could become one of the biggest endings of the modern remake era. Finally, there is Resident Evil Veronica. This game is coming in 2027 and is being developed by Capcom as a remake of Resident Evil Code Veronica. It is planned for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. There is no exact date yet, but when we look at Capcom's remake line, this game will fill a very important gap, because after the Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remakes, Code, Veronica was one of the games fans had been waiting for a long time. Claire Redfield, Rockford Island, Umbrella's Dark Side, and that gothic survival horror atmosphere will return with the modern RE engine. I did not play the original Resident Evil Veronica, but in general, I trust Capcom's Resident Evil remakes. Resident Evil 3 Remake felt a little weaker to me, but I really liked Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 4 Remake. I even played the latest Resident Evil Requiem with a lot of excitement and loved it. That is why I am hopeful about Veronica 2. Capcom is now really experienced when it comes to rebuilding old Resident Evil games with modern horror, a modern camera, strong atmosphere, and powerful visuals. I think the success of this remake will depend on capturing the atmosphere correctly. Because Code, Veronica is not just a Resident Evil game where you run away from creatures. It is also a game that carries the feeling of a strange, dark, gothic, and disturbing family tragedy. Combining that with modern gameplay is not easy. If there is too much action, the survival horror side may become weak. If it stays too old in structure, it may feel heavy for modern players. But if Capcom finds the right balance, Resident Evil Veronica could become one of the strongest horror games of 2027. Overall, when we look at it, 2026 and 2027 really seem like they will be packed when it comes to remakes. Personally, the ones I am waiting for the most are Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, Tomb Raider, Legacy of Atlantis, Final Fantasy VII Revelation, Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Resident Evil Veronica. But every game on this list has its own audience, its own nostalgia, and its own excitement. So which one are you waiting for the most? Do you want to return to Black Flag? Are you waiting for Lara Croft's new adventure? Or does Resident Evil Veronica excite you more? Make sure to write it in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next video.